Hi, my loves. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Rita. You can call me Riri for short. And this is Rita's Corner. This channel, we essentially do a lot of commentary, giving my opinion on pop culture and some educational content here and there, especially in regards to history, politics, and sociology, because those are topics I do love to indulge in my free time. And if those things sound interesting to you, you already know what to do. Subscribe, it's free, and it would help me a lot. Anyway, let's get into this conversation because this is a topic I really wanted to get into, but I have no one to talk about it with. So I'm going to make you guys talk about it with me. We're going to have a discussion about Voice Memo Guy and the whole commotion he caused over on TikTok in regards to the voice memo he sent to the girl he was seeing at the time. Let me give you guys some background, some context. It's not a lot of context, but it's what was offered to us. So we were also working with what we had. Essentially, this guy has been seeing this girl for a couple of weeks maybe, and he took her out on 2 dates. Now, he is sending her a voice memo. They're about to link up, or they're supposed to link up. In the voice memo, he basically implies that he has spoken to her about this and he already knows where she stands with this issue, but he's still persisting by asking her, if I'm going to come over to your place and see you today, I would really love to have sex with you. Excuse me, sir? That's not how that works. That's not how that goes. And he was essentially saying if he's not going to be doing that with her today, he's not interested in coming. And he's not interested in continuing this relationship or whatever this is. And he would rather they go their separate ways. But good for her because she was able to take the trash out. Good for her. She could have spent a year with this man. Instead, she only lost 2 weeks of her life. 2 weeks of her life. Good for her. Anyway, that's essentially the context, and I'll play the voice memo for you guys right now, and then I'll come back with my commentary.
Good time tonight. Definitely think you are lovely. However, I would love to, if we're gonna go to your place on Thursday, I am looking to have that physical intimacy to see if I am sexually compatible with you. So if I'm gonna come over, I would be hoping to hook up, have sex, have a good time, have that romantic spark and that physical spark there for my own sake, because it's hard for me to continue dating someone and seeing them if I don't know if I'm sexually compatible. So I know you said I don't know about that, so I guess my thing is what would be the point of me coming over then if we're not gonna hook up and cuddle and be intimate with each other? And if that's what you don't want, that's fine, but I think we should just end it here then, respectfully, just because first date, that's fine. You want to get to know each other, I'm all about that, but I am looking to have that physical aspect there, and I don't want to continue seeing someone if I don't know if that's good, if that's not there or not. So up to you. Let me know. I'm happy to, if you do want me to come over, I'm happy to do so. Would love to have a good time, and we can have some wine, hang out, and chill. But if you're not trying to hook up, then I think we should just go our separate ways. Let me know.
I am back with my commentary. Okay, so I personally feel the voice memo guy, the whole situation was 1000% super, super duper rude. The outrage, the uproar was 1000% warranted. This man was being very rude, and not in a conventional way. In that's not what you say. Those are not the things you talk about. In that this is not something you bring up. This is not something you have a conversation about. Especially in this way. Because sexual intimacy is a very sacred, important, special thing that you share with somebody. Some people don't feel that way, but for the most part, a lot of people feel that way about sexual intimacy. And you don't bring it up like a casual, I don't know, like you're talking about buying bread. If you're not gonna have bread there, I'm probably not gonna come, and I don't want to even see you anymore because you don't buy the bread I like. That's essentially how he was treating this thing, and that's not how you treat something like that, especially with somebody you barely even know. Right? So the voice memo guy situation became one of those internet moments where everyone was arguing, but almost everyone was reacting to a different part of the same conversation. Some of the people heard the voice note and thought at least he was being honest. And, I understand where they're coming from. A lot of men and some women felt this way. And I truly get it. Yes, at least he was being honest. He saved her 2 weeks of her life. She didn't have to waste another week with this man. I'm assuming it's 2 weeks because Like, it's been only 2 dates. So I'm assuming it's been like 2, 3 weeks, less than a month. Anyway, other people heard the voice note or the voice memo and thought, you know what, this is freaking manipulative, coercive, disgusting. It's like peer pressure. It's like peer pressure. You're essentially peer pressuring this person, right? And honestly, I feel like both sides, they're reacting to something very real. Their reaction was very much warranted. These reactions were warranted. Because the problem was not necessarily that he communicated his intentions. The problem was that, he framed them in such a way that says sexual compatibility matters to me. Sexual compatibility matters to me. He was framing them in that type of way, like a this is important for me type thing, And it's like, duh, this is important for everybody. Everybody wants to be with somebody they're sexually compatible with. Who the hell wants to date somebody they're not sexually compatible with? Nobody wants that. But you're not saying it in such a cause for concern. You're saying it in more of like a, when is this happening so that I can dip. I can get the cookie and dip. That's essentially the vibe he was giving off. And he framed it like a condition. It was not like a genuine, concern or a genuine interest or a genuine need, desire. Like when you're in a relationship and somebody tells you, I don't eat fish because I get a rash. That's something that makes sense. It's a genuine concern you bring up in the relationship. It's genuine. It's to protect you. It's to save you any medical fees and stuff like that. That makes sense. Sex now is something you have to discuss with the person. Like, listen, I need bums in this relationship. If I don't get bums, I'm not interested. What?
That's suspicious. That's weird.
I mean, I totally get it. But nowadays, a lot of people are pretty, like, they celibate. So, that is something you have to get out of the way. You have to communicate that and find out what's going on. Is this even an option for this relationship? Because I do understand a lot of people are celibate. And I think they're celibate because of this type of behavior. This type of behavior is making everybody just want to close up shop and never open it up again. The framing of his need, I don't know what you want to call this, girl. It's not even a need. The whole way he framed this condition, if anything, he added a bit of a deadline to it, a bit of an ultimatum feel to it. And that is where the conversation got very messy, because I do think what voice memo guy said, he didn't really create a new problem in dating. He exposed a very old one. He said the quiet part out loud. My main argument for this whole video essay, if you want to call it that, is that he made the people uncomfortable by making the exchange feel obvious. He made people uncomfortable by making the exchange feel obvious, because you know what? Him wanting sex is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a very human thing. Adults have desires. This is not something new to us. The uncomfortable part was that he made the exchange feel very obvious. For a long time, there has been this like unspoken agreement in dating that we have all subscribed to as adults, where people understand that sex may be a part of the romantic pursuit, but nobody wants it to be said too plainly. Because once it's said too plainly, the way voice memo guy put it, the fairy tale of the whole pursuit just feels transactional. And that is where I think a lot of the outrage came from. Women are not naive. Women know this. They know to some subconscious level, at least, that, some men, the pursuit is not always purely about companionship, emotional intimacy, or love. Sometimes the goal is access. It is getting to the cookie. It's as simple as that, Sometimes the goal is just sex for some men. For some men that are pursuing women, that's their goal, to take you to bed. And because that desire is usually dressed up, usually they're nice enough to hide it. They dress it up with romance and dates and compliments and flowers, good morning texts, and all these consistencies that, make the whole pursuit of interacting with the opposite sex and heterosexual dynamics so nice sometimes, nice and worth it. And it makes it all feel super soft and less transactional, even though it has some basic level transactionality to it, like very basic level transactionality. But voice memo guy stripped away the packaging with his voice note to this young lady. Packaging of the whole romantic pursuit or the whole interaction with this man felt cheap all of a sudden. Like, he took it away. He took away the prettiness about it and just made it super cheap by just saying, if I'm coming over to your place, I'm going to bring some wine. I can bring some wine, I can bring some snacks, but I want that cookie. And it's like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Like, anyway, let's talk about reciprocity and transaction because this argument was gearing you up for that. So now, reciprocity versus transaction. This is where dating gets uncomfortable, right? Because a lot of people love the word reciprocity, but they hate the word transaction. Reciprocity sounds romantic. It sounds mutual. It sounds like we both care about each other. So we're both going to contribute to whatever capacity we both can into this relationship, a very balanced capacity. But transaction sounds cold, it sounds detached, and it sounds like I give you this and you give me that. Reciprocity and transaction are essentially saying the same thing. One is just nicer than the other one. But oftentimes the two can sit closer together than, people want to admit. In relationships, people exchange time, effort, emotional labor, affection, loyalty, and attention and physical intimacy. But the difference is supposed to be that reciprocity is built on mutual desire and not pressure. That is the thing that distinguishes transaction and reciprocity in this situation. Reciprocity says we both want to give to this. We both mutually want to contribute to this. But transaction says I gave this, so you should give me that. So, what I think he thought he was saying, I really think in his mind, he may have thought he was being mature. He may have thought, I am being clear, I am communicating with her, and I'm not leading her on. I am letting her know what I want and what I need before we waste each other's time or before he gets his time wasted. And to a degree, I understand where he was coming from. I do understand where he was coming from in regards to him trying to communicate and be direct with what he wants and his needs. But as much as it is better for someone to be clear about what they want than to perform emotional availability and play like this perfect gentleman months into the relationship, waiting just to get what they want, and eventually, they'll disappear. I'm glad he said something. I'm genuinely glad he said something because he saved the young lady a lot of time and a lot of heartache and a lot of unnecessary BS that she really didn't need to go through, because that happens way too often. But his delivery, it revealed something deeper. It sounded like he saw his good behavior as a part of the exchange. Like I took you out, I was nice to you, I was being a gentleman, I was opening your doors and stuff like that. So now maybe you could give me the cookie. So that is exactly the issue here, because that's how it sounds. It sounds like he was even counting what he was doing in this relationship with this girl. He's counting like, okay, I did this. Okay, now she should be more than comfortable to do this with me. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the issue sits. Being kind, respectful, and a decent human being is not a premium feature, hey? It is not a premium feature of your humanness. It is what you owe society. It is your obligation as a human to be this way to your fellow brothers and human sisters and human brothers. You guys are making it seem like Ubuntu, a sense of humility, being respectful, being a decent human being is like this premium feature you only save for the people you love and care about. No, it must be awarded to everyone. It's not an investment plan, bro. You're not doing this to get something out of it in later on, or you're not doing this, to eventually get something big at the end. It's not something that you do to later collect for, and especially not intimacy. What the hell? It should be like our baseline for how you treat others and how others should treat you. It should be a baseline. Let's move on before I get worked up from that segment. Why people were so angry. I think part of the outrage came from the fact that he interrupted the fantasy of dating. A lot of women want to feel chosen, for who they are and not pursued for the fact that you can have sex with them. And when a man makes sex sound like the real checkpoint, it can make the entire romantic pursuit and the romantic build-up feel so performative. Like this is exactly what you were doing it for this entire time. You're not actually doing it because you actually wanted to. And you know, a lot of cartoons and satire and satirical material out there in media have made jokes about this. Men don't care about dates. Men don't care about flowers. Men don't care about chocolates. Men don't care about none of this. They're all doing it just to make us happy. And it's like, then it's a performance. It's a performance. It's a performance because it feels like you don't, if it were up to you, you wouldn't even do any of this. And I feel like, that's where the scary part comes in. Like if it were up to them, this wouldn't even be a thing. And suddenly like the dinner dates and all those things, the flowers, it doesn't look like thoughtfulness. It doesn't look like romance. It doesn't look like gentleman behavior. It just looks like a character or a front he's putting on just so he can get what he wants from you. And of course, this is not all men. Duh, I don't have to say that. That's nuance. Obviously, it's not all men. But it starts to feel like a strategy. And, you know, no one wants to feel like they were being warmed up for a transaction. And that is why the voice memo guy situation and discussion on TikTok hit such a freaking nerve to a lot of women, especially because it made a lot of women ask the question, is this what men like are thinking the whole time? Is this what they're thinking the entire time they're with us? And that's scary if that is what you're thinking the entire time you're with me. You're not even thinking about what I'm talking about. You're thinking about my cookie. And the uncomfortable answer sometimes is yes. Like, not all men, but a lot of them are. And enough of them are thinking about this for us to be having this conversation today, for us to be way too familiar with this conversation. Way too freaking familiar, you know? Anyway, was it coercion? Right? Because another TikToker brought this up, and I will play her video on how some people were actually comparing this whole situation to coercion in the comment section, and then she broke it down so nicely on how this wasn't coercion, this isn't textbook coercion, and I'll play her video on screen.
I'm going to play two different clips for you, only one of which I think is an example of both coercion and manipulation. I'm going to play both clips and then we're going to talk on the other side.
Had a good time tonight. Definitely think you are lovely. However, I would love to, if we're gonna go to your place on Thursday, I mean, I am looking to.
This clip two.
A shocking amount of women are willing to sleep with you on the first or the second date, but they will only do it if they feel like when they go back to your place, it's not being framed as a guarantee. I want to say is something closer to like, hey, I got to go back to my place to take my dog out, but I'm really enjoying talking to you. Why don't you come back so we can continue chatting? Or, hey, I got to go back to my place because I left my stuff in the laundry machine. I don't want it to get moldy or stinky or whatever. But like, let's keep chatting. Let's keep hanging out. The beauty of something like that is the girl kind of knows what you're doing. She also kind of knows that it's likely that once you guys go back, something's going to happen. Or at least I think that. But because of the way that you framed it, you've kind of given her an out in her head. She has plausible deniability. We can go back to his place. We can take the dog out, whatever. And then we can see what happens. That ironically makes her more comfortable to end up sleeping with you compared to if you were just to say, hey, you want to go back to my place? It's such an icky feeling for her. Maybe she was more than willing to sleep with you on that date. But now because you've collapsed it and turned it into a certainty, it's so much pressure and it's so deeply unromantic.
By now, I'm sure most of us had already heard the voice memo from the person now dubbed Voice Memo Guy. And the second video was actually made in response to Voice Memo Guy, so I think it's good to examine them both together. To manipulate someone is lying to someone to try to control them unfairly. Coercion, on the other hand, is convincing someone to choose or do something that they ordinarily wouldn't or don't want to do. Keep in mind, this is not the legal definition. In my opinion, video 1 is not an example of coercion or manipulation. Video 2, however, is to me a red flag filled example of both manipulation and coercion. So now let's talk about why. Listening to the voice memo makes me uncomfortable because this man sounds extremely detached and transactional. However, that does not mean that the substance of what he's saying is coercive or manipulative. I do not think that Voice Memo Guy is trying to gain preemptive consent. I think that he's just trying to gauge sexual interest. There is no threat of consequence or a threat to her safety. This is a voice memo that was sent to her remotely. She is not in any physical danger. For this to be coercion, he would have to be compelling her to sleep with him. He's not doing that. There is no threat or consequence in this scenario. The perceived consequence is that they will not continue dating, which is not actually a consequence. That is the natural and inevitable outcome of that situation.
Was it coercion? You know, coercion generally involves pressuring or threatening or forcing someone to do something against their will. So I would be a little careful with calling this coercion outright. He did give her a choice at the end of the day, and he basically said, this is what I want, and if that doesn't align with you, we should end it right now. And that is technically a choice. But something I didn't see being framed in the discourse, especially in the comment section, is was this an ultimatum, which I believe should have been asked, because I feel like this was an ultimatum of some sorts, you know? And another creator did touch on it slightly. She did say like, oh, some people are saying this is an ultimatum, but for something to be considered an ultimatum, she said, is for that thing to have a negative consequence. Like it's either you're picking from two options and one of them has a negative consequence. And she basically said, what is the negative consequence from losing a man that only wants you for your body?
Voice memo guy is innocent, and the women complaining about him are pick-me's. Hear me out. This guy left this girl a voice memo after their first date, letting her know that if he's coming over to her place for their second date, he would like to sleep together. He said, hey, just so you know, at this point, I would like for us to establish some type of sexual chemistry, and if not, that's perfectly fine. We just probably won't need to see each other in that intimate setting. Basically, if he ain't cracking, he ain't coming, so what's up? And although it is a strange way to ask for consent, I mean, at least he asked. He didn't wait until they were in person and pressure her. He said, these are my intentions. If these are not your intentions, we probably shouldn't do this. Now, the bird brain pick-me's are calling this an ultimatum, which reminds me that you all don't understand what multi-syllable words mean. It's actually a choice. See, an ultimatum requires some type of negative consequence. What is the negative consequence here? She doesn't get picked by this man? They don't go on a second date? Oh no, are you serious? You are dating someone and they clearly state that they want intimacy on a timeline that does not work for you? Leave that man. Y'all two do not need to be together. You're not on the same timeline. You're not compatible. It's that simple. I genuinely think this man did the right thing by stating his intentions before he came over. Now she has to put her big girl panties on and decide if she wants to sleep with that man or not. And if she doesn't and he wants to leave, let him.
What's the negative consequence? And she ate, but I still feel like it's an ultimatum. I still feel like it was, I don't feel like it was a textbook ultimatum. We will put the definition for you guys on screen. I don't feel like it was a textbook ultimatum, but I do feel like the whole conversation was framed like an ultimatum. It wasn't giving, let's have a conversation, let's sit down, let's set out the expectations for intimacy together. You know, let's be adults about the situation. It was more like either this happens soon or I'm out. And even when somebody technically gives you a choice, the framing can still feel pressuring. And that is exactly what Voice Memo Guy did in this regard, right? And especially when it comes to something like sex is a very sensitive topic for a very good reason. And if you don't treat it with the delicacy it deserves, you will come off as being insensitive and just a, I don't think I can say that word, but that word. And this is why language and delivery matters. I feel like people are forgetting that delivery is like 70% of what you're saying and like 30% is the content of what you're saying. You could say the dumbest thing ever in the world, but because you sound very intelligent when saying it, you can still get it through. You can still get it across the line. People are still going to listen to you. People are going to think and believe that you actually know what you're talking about. When 9 times out of 10, you don't even know what you're saying. You know, you're just talking. You're just talking in a confident tone, confident body language, etc. So yeah, guys, don't ever forget delivery matters just as much as the content of your words. Please. Anyway, could he have said it better? Absolutely freaking yes. He totally could have said it better. And especially if you slide it into conversation, like real slick, real smooth, I feel like that could change the whole dialogue. It could change the whole premise. If you know how to slide in certain conversations into other conversations, real smooth, real slick, it could have been a whole different conversation, you know? Same intention, different delivery. One invites conversation, but the other feels like a condition, like we said. He treated intimacy honestly like a milestone that she needed to meet for the relationship to continue. And instead of something people should arrive to willingly, which was so freaking upsetting and weird, to be honest with you. You know, the bigger dating issue in regards to this discourse was that men and women are often entering dating with like these totally different expectations, and many women are dating for like emotional connection, romance, security, partnership, and a genuine feeling of being chosen and belonging, whilst men are also, you know, capable of seeking these things out, but that's not the first thing they're looking for when they see a woman they're very interested in. That's not the first thing that comes to mind. Sometimes the first thing that comes to mind, or the first few things that they are looking for, is access and attraction and sexual pursuit, and then those things kind of, you know, happen a little bit later on into the relationship. And the problem is not desire. Desire is very normal. The problem in this case was deception. The problem is when someone performs romance to get sex. That's what I mean by deception. He was performing these acts, the dates, the texting, the, you know, chilling with her, hanging out with her. He didn't actually want to do it. You were just doing it so you can get something out of it. And that is deception, my friends. That is deception. And when you do that in relationships, it can often lead to making people feel used. And that is why the voice memo guy's honesty is honestly so complicated. Because yes, even though his delivery was super bad, at least he did not hide the terms and conditions that are often in the fine print that men usually forget to mention when they're dealing with us women. Anyway, the real takeaway in this whole debacle that happened, what can we learn from this? What can we take away from this? I think the real takeaway in this is when a man shows you how they think and who they are, believe them. But at the same time, I don't want us to get to a point now in society where we're punishing honesty, because if this man had not been honest, he would have still been dealing with this woman, and this woman would have been thinking we're building a relationship. Whole time he's just waiting to get the cookie. That's it. He's buying his time. We need to find like a middle ground whereby we don't punish honesty so harshly to the point whereby people can just now go back to lying, because we don't want to find ourselves involved, especially romantically, with individuals that are so quick and so capable, and it's so easy for them to put up a front and to lie. Because that is the problem. If every uncomfortable truth is met with like public outrage, people do not become better communicators through this. They just become better performers, better liars. And dating already has enough performance in it, as we all know. So no, I don't think the voice memo guy was completely wrong for communicating his intentions. How he did it though, but I do think he showed us what happens when someone confuses honesty with emotional intelligence, because that was not emotionally intelligent. That was just blatant honesty. That was just like, I don't care if this hurts you type of honesty. This is how I feel, I don't care how you feel about it honesty. And we don't like that type of honesty, because at the end of the day, even if it's honest, it can still be harsh, it can still be rude, and it can still come off as entitlement or pressure. So what are my closing statements? The only thing voice memo guy did was expose the part of dating that a lot of people would rather keep unspoken. That some people are not dating for love first, they are dating for access first, for sex first, for attraction first, lust first. And once someone says that part out loud, the fantasy becomes harder to maintain. And so maybe the question is not just, was he wrong? Maybe the better question should be, why did hearing the truth that we all subconsciously know about to some level, why did the truth make everyone so uncomfortable? Because sometimes the red flag is not that, someone told you who they are. Sometimes the red flag is we are shocked or surprised when they do tell us. Because why are we shocked that a man did this? Why are we shocked that men think like this? Why are we shocked that we shouldn't be shocked at this point, because we have been with these people for a very long time. We have existed with them for quite some time, and we should know them a bit better than this, But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it, especially if you made it to the end of the video. Please don't forget to comment your thoughts and your opinions on the issue down below. I would love to read how you felt about the whole situation, or when did you find out about the whole situation with the voice memo guy, and what was that like? But I will have to love and leave you, and I'll see you guys next time in another video. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bitch, that's my bitch, that's my bitch, that's my